Hello and welcome to Ballot Meridian 2018 General Election Coverage on HOMTV. I'm Brandy Yates. Joining me in studio is Lance Langdon, Director of the Ingham County 911 Central Dispatch Center. Thank you so much for being here. And you're here to discuss the Ingham County Central Dispatch proposition for 911 emergency service system funding before voters on November 6th. Before we discuss that proposal further, let's take a look at the ballot language. And that reads, shall the County of Ingham, Michigan be authorized to assess a charge on all landline, wireless, and voice over internet protocol service users located in Ingham County of up to $1.80 per month to be used exclusively for the funding of 911 emergency telephone call answering and dispatch services within Ingham County, including facilities, infrastructure, equipment, and maintenance and operating costs. So now that we know what the ballot language says, Lance, can you please go a little further on what that is exactly asking voters?
Right now, voters pay, if they look at their phone bill, 40 cents on each one of their phones. And that's individual phone lines. We've had somebody say, well, I've got 5 phones in my house, but they're wireless phones to one phone number. So I want to point out that just because you have 5 wireless phones in your house doesn't mean you're paying all 5. Okay. It's per phone number when you're doing that. Okay. Somebody brought that up in one of the meetings as we're going on educating, and they thought they were going to be paying a lot more. But it is, right now you pay a 42-cent charge on your bill right now as a local 911 surcharge. We're asking that that be increased to $1.38 to a cap of a total of $1.80 per month per device. That works out to be a little over $20 a year, so it is not a large amount of money. But what it will do is it will provide us funding in order to take care of some projects and operations that we need with the center.
And what kind of projects are you specifically talking about?
The biggest one is replacing our public safety radio system. We currently have a system that is at end of life in 2017 as far as the equipment, but they are servicing it out till 2021. So we need to replace that equipment between now and 2021.
And you said you were speaking to residents and doing some outreach type efforts for this proposal. How has the response been?
We've gone to neighborhood meetings, city council meetings, township board meetings, everybody we can get before to educate on it. Because if people don't know what it is they're voting for, they tend to vote based on not having that information. So we wanted to make people aware that this is what it was for, and not that it was some amount that might not be getting used for something that might be needed very heavily for the public safety in the area.
Okay, talk about the dispatch center as a whole. What does it do? Some of the statistics on what goes through that center.
The 911 dispatch center takes care of all of the emergency and non-emergency calls for police, and then of course all the emergency calls for fire and EMS. We get about over 500,000 phone calls in and out of the center each year. We dispatch for all of the police, fire, and EMS for all the municipalities in the county. We also do have some areas that extend out into Clinton County, which are areas that are policed by East Lansing and Lansing, and then also some areas over in Eaton County that Lansing Police is actually responsible for.
So that's quite a few calls going into one location. Why is it important to have a central location for those kind of emergency calls?
Well, by having one center, we consolidated back in 2012 2 centers. One used to be at East Lansing Police Department and one at Lansing. We consolidated them down so we weren't duplicating equipment and such, so we bring it into one place and one set of staff. So when we need to upgrade equipment, we're only doing 1 set as opposed to 2.
Okay.
So by shrinking it down to 1 center, we're not duplicating some of the equipment that we might need.
Okay, and talk about, you're the director. How long have you been there? Kind of give us a little bit of background about you and how you got to the dispatch center.
I was hired just before the consolidation back in 2012. Prior to that, I worked for East Lansing Police Department. I've retired from there as a lieutenant, but I wore the hat as the director for the East Lansing 911 Center when I was there. And I spent 25 years with East Lansing Police prior to moving over to the County Dispatch Center.
Okay, and since 2012, since the consolidation, what changes have you seen with the center as a whole and just kind of the calls that are being handled?
The type of calls and stuff we get are pretty much the same. I mean, it's the same problems, everything from barking neighbor's dog to robberies, medical emergencies. We still have the cardiac arrests, strokes, delivering babies, slip and falls. I mean, all the normal stuff. So the type of calls we get remain the same. I mean, it's the day in, day out stuff that police, fire, and EMS respond to around the county.
How long would this millage be in place if approved by voters on November 6th?
Okay, this one is not a millage. It's a surcharge. It's a fee that's on the phone. It will be in place as long as the state allows for the surcharge to be imposed based on this. We are only allowed to have the county commissioners approve up to the 42 cents we currently have. Anything over that has to go back to the voters.
Okay.
So this $1.80, and it is a cap. That's why in the ballot language you see it says up to. We have this large expense with the radio system, which we're looking at $25 to $30 million for, and that's why the need is there. But once that project is done, the commissioners can then ratchet that back. We won't have that need of that large of an expense at that point, so they can ratchet that back. On the flip side, we also do have a millage for our operations.
Okay.
That also was a cap at the 0.85 mils. And the commissioners just a few years ago actually moved it up to the cap. Prior to that, we had not had it up to the cap. But with the property taxes and the money's down over the years from the property taxes and such, they end up having to raise that up a little to the cap. So this will be very similar. When this project gets through and paid for, they will then look at moving that cap back down to where normal operations are covered, and or if we have a new technology improvement, because unfortunately technology in next generation 911 is going to be resulting in us having to do other upgrades too.
Yeah, technology is a blessing and a curse because you have to change a lot of things once upgrades are there.
As technology changes, as we're moving into the next gen 911, which means people are able to send pictures and video, texts, and all the different things that go with that to 911 as well. So that's not too far off in our distant future.
Do you think that is a good thing or a bad thing, or can you comment on the technology improvements?
Some of my concerns with Next Gen 911 are actually for the staff. They right now listen to people on the phone at the worst time in their lives. Somebody's hurt, they're bleeding, a bad accident, lost limbs. I mean, anything that could be, it's bad enough to listen to on the phone, but then all of a sudden to be sent a video or a picture of it. Now, instead of just having it, whatever was being described in their mind, now they're actually seeing it. And I see that as being a little more stressful for them.
A challenge in the future. Okay. If this proposition, thank you for correcting me, not a millage, it's a proposition question, a surcharge. If this does not get approved, what happens?
Then it will have to go back to the board, and we'll have to try and come up with some other alternatives. We could just start upgrading some of our equipment at a lesser cost, but it doesn't give us the interoperability that's needed really for some of the operations that take place day in, day out. One of the reasons we've selected to go to the MPSCS, which is a state radio system, is most of the counties have moved towards that for interoperable communications. One of the big examples I can give with the sports riots we've had at MSU over the years, we bring officers in from all over the state through the state police, neighboring counties and such. By going to the MPSCS and as many counties that have now changed over to this, interoperable communications now are seamless. We're not struggling trying to be able to talk to each other to properly respond to a scene. If we have an incident at the Capitol, we bring in people from all over again. Those incidents require that. If we have a major event with severe weather or something else, again, it provides us that ability for seamless interoperable communications. With our current system to the MPSCS, we do have limited connectivity to be able to communicate. By moving to that full system, it opens it up.
Okay. What other questions besides the one about how many phone numbers, what questions have you received from residents about this?
Just like today with the 42-cent charge we have, a business that has a whole bunch of phone lines, they may have several hundred phone lines in their building. This move of $1.38 per month per line, when you have 500 phone lines in a business, would be something that you might say, okay, that's a big hit on my business. For businesses with multiple lines, you pay the charge for the first 10 lines, and then every additional 10 counts as one.
Okay.
So at 20 lines for a business, they'd be paying the charge on 11 lines. At 30 lines, it's 12. So they do get some economy of scale there, that they're not charged for all those lines.
Yeah, and that's not clear in the language at all, so that's why it's important to get out there.
And that's part of the 911 statute. Even with the 42-cent surcharge, that's the same that's in place now.
Okay.
So the number of lines they're charged for would remain the same as it is today.
Okay. So I have one of your pamphlets here. Let's talk about some of your agency partners and the outreach efforts that they've been doing for this.
We have been going out to, as I said, all the different township boards. Actually came and presented to Meridian Township's board here briefly a couple weeks ago. We'll be trying to get the message out to as many of them as they can. And then, of course, we appreciate you helping us get the message out through you as well. We handle all of the police, fire, and EMS around the county. So whether it's Onondaga Fire, if it's Meridian Township Police or Fire, NISA, Lansing Police, the Sheriff's Department, those are all the different agencies that we do take care of. And with this radio project, all those agencies would be receiving new radio equipment so that they're able to respond to the emergencies around the county.
So at no cost to them, it's through this, correct?
Yeah, the people of Meridian Township for this new radio system, other than paying the new surcharge fee, that's what would help fund and provide the police and fire in Meridian Township their radios.
And I think you might have already said this, but why is this so important to do?
Communications is the essential thing that public safety needs. We have to be able to tell the officers and firefighters where they're going. We have to make sure they're updated on information so that they're safe and the public remains safe. And when they get into trouble, they'll be able to call for help.
Right.
So the communications are so important. By moving to the MPSCS system, it gets us that interoperable so that we don't have any glitches in the communication as we move around the county.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you want our viewers to know or you want us to know about this?
We're just trying to educate them so they can make an educated decision on whether or not they should approve the surcharge. I guess I will give a plug to my staff. The 911 staff in Ingham County here are exceptional people. They really do care about the public, the first responders that they're sending out there, and their goal is to keep everybody as safe as possible day in and day out.
Okay. Well, Lance, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you again on election night for our general election coverage to see how everything is going with the proposition question before voters, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Brandy Yates, inviting you to watch live Ballot Meridian 2018 General Election Night coverage right here on HOMTV on Tuesday, November 6th, starting at 8 p.m. Thanks for watching.